Well, hey there, everyone. It's Monday and time for Monday Mastery. I'm author and dating coach Rick Sodabeer, and I'm here to help you with thoughts, tips, advice, suggestions with dating and relationships. And I hope you all had a great week last week and a wonderful weekend. Don't know where you are, but when you drop in, I hope you'll say hi and let me know what's. Oh, let me get this over here. I hope you'll tell me where you're at and just say hi. I can see when folks are out there, but if you don't say anything, I don't know who you are or what you're doing. So anyway, like I said, drop your name or just drop a hey, Rick, how you doing, or something along that line when you sign in or when you come in. And if you have any questions along the way, that's what I'm here for. I'm here to answer your questions. I have topics that I love to talk about, but I also probably more than anything enjoy answering your questions because they're specific to you and I can be of more benefit to you. And if you've got the question, more than likely there's a bunch of other people that have the same question or is something similar. So, hey, Liz, thanks for joining in. Good to see you here. Let's see. My screen is probably less than 2 feet away from my face, and I can just barely make out that it's Liz. Yeah, you're 2 blocks away exactly. So anyway, and both Liz and I are experiencing kind of a cold, rainy, dreary day today, and kind of at least for me anyway, a good day to stay in. So, anyway, I hope you all had a wonderful week and a great weekend. Uh, and again, I'll say it one more time that if you've got questions, that's what I love most about being here is being able to answer your questions, being able to say hi and chat a little bit, and hopefully give you some suggestions on making better dating and relationship decisions, because that's really what this is all about: is to make our dating lives simple again. It's not like when we were back in high school, at least for most of us. I try to cater to the midlife singles, 40 and up, and work with you folks and things. Hey, Paul, thanks for joining in. I'm glad to see you're here. And uh, Paul had an interesting comment for me today in an email exchange we had, and actually, Paul, if you don't mind, I'll share that here. Um, it was based on my blog last week of so many people. The premise of the blog was that so many people are quitting dating, and the odds are quite high of you remaining single if you're over age 50. And number one, I'd like to change that, because I think God has us designed or created to be uh, in relationship with each other, not just with Him, but with somebody special in our lives. And I was having a conversation with someone else a couple of weeks back, and it triggered a thought that, well, could it be Satan that's getting in our way and causing us to get into deep frustration and just throwing up our hands and saying, I give up? Because if God designed us to be in relationship with other people, what would be the devil's greatest achievement? Would be to keep us out of relationship with others, to get us frustrated, to have us unhappy, to have us unhealthy. And that brought up some other research that I've done that I'll get to in a second. But Paul posed an interesting question that could we be uh, turning dating into another type of idol? And I thought about that, and I shared with Paul that that could very well be, if we're not focusing on uh, a God-based relationship and a godly partner. And if you're just dating to fill a spot, if you're just dating um, to have somebody take up room or take up space in your life, and you're doing it from an unhealthy position, I think very much so that you can be dating for the wrong reasons, and creating literally an idol out of dating itself, or creating or finding a partner that becomes an idol, that you tend to and I haven't used this term in a while, but you worship the ground they walk on. You think so much of them, and those tend to be one-sided relationships where you don't see the flaws, or the imperfections, or the nuances of the relationship that need attention. And that's when relationships, again, being one-sided, uh, the person that has the least invested in that relationship has all the power, or a majority of it, because you can work your tail off trying to make a relationship work. But if you're not um, if you're if your partner is not contributing or in any significant way to the relationship, then that's you have to ask yourself, is this really the right person? And they may be the exact person you're looking for, the type of person you're looking for, with the exception they're not contributing. You may see all the great qualities, or you may have a great person, but uh, you have a fantasy perception about them. And whenever you have a fantasy perception, and I'm as guilty of this as the next guy or the next person. I've had uh, relationships that I saw so many things. My marriage was this way. I saw so much potential in my ex, and she never lived up to that potential. But that was my vision. That was my fantasy of what she could be, or what our relationship could be. It wasn't hers. And Paul says, I think one of my points was that you so desperately want a relationship that it is unhealthy. It is an unhealthy longing uh, when you are a faith-based person, and that's exactly right. And that's what I think you probably said it a little bit better than I did, Paul. When you're dating from a need, well, and I'm going to go real deep with this one. When you're dating from a position of fear, and it's a fear of being alone, and sometimes we say, "Oh, that person's really needy," but it really is boils down to being based in fear. And we never want to be dating from that position, from a position of fear. And there's a number of different fears. It might be the fear of, you know it could be the fear of being alone, the fear of um the fear of abandonment. So, and there could be any number of things that keep you tied to relationships. And so we have to be very careful. And this is one of the reasons why it's so important when you start getting back into the world of dating. And I know some of you may be farther down that road than others, but when you're especially when you first get back into the world of dating, you have to be so careful that you're emotionally healthy and emotionally ready to start dating, because dating has changed dramatically over the last 25 years. I look at, I look at even even meeting my ex, which was about 35 years ago. You you didn't have the internet. Well, you probably had the internet, but it was just very new. And getting online, and that reminds me of the old dial-up services that, like the old AOL, where you had to dial a phone number. And I remember at one place I worked, you had to type in the number and you could hear it go toot, 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 toot. And then it would connect to the other end, and you'd plug your phone in and your computer would be hooked up. And it was, oh man, those were some days. But we didn't have online dating, and we didn't have these devices, and texting. And I remember when texting first came out, I think it was through Nextel, that you could text, uh, and even call from one Nextel phone to another. You couldn't do it from say Nextel to AT&T, or to Verizon, or whoever else was out there. Uh, but you had those early abilities, and then it's just progresses and progresses and progresses. And so my point is, online dating, technology in general has made such advances in how we connect with people, how we talk to people, how we get to know people. And that kind of leads into today's topic of, can you still meet good people online? The 10 or 15 years ago, there wasn't such a there was more of a concern, a peripheral concern, uh, with online dating. Is, ooh, you're that hard up that you have to go online to find somebody? and and today it's like, oh man, be careful out there, there's scammers, and there's a lot of negativity about online dating still. The negativity has just changed from one level to another. And you have to be careful dating no matter what. There are people that will attempt to meet you. They'll they'll make every effort to meet you, and they'll charm you, and they can do this organically. It's meet you in person. They put themselves in the right place to meet you at the right time. And they can be very charming. And it's the same way with online dating. You start talking to somebody or you connect with somebody online, and they say all the right stuff. And you just have to be careful about who you're dealing with. I still encourage that whenever, and I refer this to, or I suggest this to both men and women, that when you meet somebody, and depending on your situation, do a background check. You can, just ask for, you should have their first name, a middle name, and last name, obviously, if you can get a birth date. And those are all easy things. You don't have to do an interrogation to get that information. That's all easy stuff to do. It's just saying, "Hey, Liz, how are you?" And you get a conversation going, and pretty soon Liz is going to ask me when my birthday is. And that's a if you're into astrology. If you're into astrology, that might be a real common question. Or it could be that you're asking to verify, if you've met online, it could be asking to verify that you are the age that you said you are. When's your birthday? Um, and these are all simple questions that you can ask to verify information. And again, it doesn't have to come across as being an interrogation. And no date should ever be an interrogation. I've been in one or two of those in my lifetime, and it's hell on wheels, and it's just, and not in a good way. So there's a way. There are ways that you can do it. Um, there are ways that you can do it, and just do it conversationally. What was your favorite vacation, Liz? Uh, Paul, where did you grow up, and um, what was your favorite part about where you grew up? And then not only are you getting additional information, uh, you're getting them to open up and share a story. And hang on one second here. Paul's got a comment, and Paul says, I have a question about a phone call I had with a woman last week. It was our first, and turns out, only call. She's from an urban area, and I am from a rural area. She said she didn't think uh, we were culturally fit for each other. This is that valid, or can people from the city and people from the country actually click? That's a great question. It depends on each of you, and not knowing any more about the conversation than that, Paul. Um, she may have sensed something in the conversation that she didn't see as a good fit. A lot of times you can have a really good conversation with somebody, and you think that, hey, maybe this could lead somewhere. All of a sudden the other party has either ghosted you or deleted you, or at the end of the call they said, yeah, it was nice knowing you, or nice getting to meet you, but I don't think we're a good fit. And odds are, I'm assuming after the call she texted you and said, yeah, I just don't think we're a good fit. But yeah, Paul, to answer your question, yes, culturally, um, of course, people can adapt to each other's lifestyles. Now, uh, you but both parties have to be open to it. Some people live in the cities and would just love to get out of the city. And then there are others that live in the country that would just love to get out of the country. So there are ways of dealing with it. But when she says culturally, does she mean that she likes museums and the opera and things like that, and you don't? Um, and Paul says she's highly educated and in a big profession. I'm a writer, but also educated. She dominated the talk. Well, yeah, Paul, I've been in conversations like that, and that was just right off the top of the bat. If she wasn't open to letting you, oh well, there you go. And she didn't like my sense of humor and told me. Well, and that's your answer right there, Paul. Culturally, her sense of humor is obviously different than yours, and uh, unless you said something very derogatory or um, maybe insensitive, and I don't picture that as being you, but that's on her, and that's as nice as she might have been otherwise. If she's not going to like your sense of humor, then I mean, that should be a red flag or a deal breaker right there. Just simply for that. Number one, I've lived that. I had my ex-wife telling me she didn't like my sense of humor. And, then I was walking on eggshells. And so, that's something you have to pay attention to. If she right away is telling you that she doesn't like your sense of humor, that for me, that automatically would have been a one and done phone call without her even having to say anything. And the other thing is that she dominated the conversation, and by doing so, she didn't give you an opportunity to share about yourself. And what that tells me is the conversation was all about her. And that's awfully hard to try to get to know somebody when you're doing all the talking or when they're doing all the talking. So she really didn't even have a chance. She gave up on you. Um she wanted to share everything about her, but didn't want to learn anything about you. So I would take that as a uh, just a consider it next. Just move on and not worry about it. But I talk to people all the time that uh, I come across people all the time that have no problem transitioning from one from something like a big city to the country, or vice versa. And some people try to find a common ground, so to speak, where they can still be maybe somewhat rural and still close enough to cities where they can do things. So, when you find the right connection, when you find the right person, that's going to be something, Paul, that is quite easily overcome. But to begin with, you have to be able to develop a connection, and an intellectual connection, spiritual, emotional, physical connection, uh, speaking similar love languages, having similar senses of humor. And that actually should be in my course, Dating Made Simple Academy, that a sense of humor, or a similar sense of humor, but that can fall into the intellectual connection, because you have to have a lot of similarities, eh, in my opinion, because there are just so many roadblocks in life. There are so many hurdles that we have to jump through, or hoops that we have to jump through, or just things we have to work around or work through. And to have these to leave these things in place, it just makes dating and relationships so much more difficult than uh, if you have a lot of things in common. Now, do you have to be exactly the same? Absolutely not. The reality is, we're all going to bring something unique to the table, but you should have some similarities. Um, there should be some commonalities, and maybe the types of foods you like, or the types of places you like to go, or the types of music you like to listen to. I know for me, I'm not I have to be very patient with somebody else when it comes to music, because I've kind of got myself in a box right now that I don't listen to a lot of other stuff. I listen to some good Christian music, and generally some older country, Jimmy Buffett, George Strait, Alan Jackson, that type of thing. Uh, and some of the older guys are great too. But that's my opinion. That's what I like. And to be able to find somebody that naturally falls in there would be great. Is it an absolute deal breaker? Well, it could be if they listen to a lot of hard rock, uh, yeah, or rap, or even even opera and classical music. I can only take so much of that, and so you all have to figure out what you're willing to what you're willing to deal with and what you're not. And that's all part of developing that intellectual connection and having a spiritual connection. You have, whether you're a Christian, whether you're Jewish, whether you're Muslim or Hindu or Buddhist or atheist. I firmly believe you need to be with somebody of similar spiritual background. It just makes life so much easier. And ladies, when you date somebody, I know a lot of you look for somebody to go to church with, and you get so disappointed when you end up with a guy that doesn't go to church, even though he may say he's Christian. Well, and find out where he goes to church. You ask those questions. Do you go to church regularly? I ask women that, and the when I talk to somebody that says they're Catholic, I says, well, are you a practicing Catholic or no? And sometimes I'll get a yes, and more times than not, I'll get a no. And so it gauges where their level of spirituality is. And so the idea is that these are important things that we need to pay attention to. We might have just a core, a few core things that attract us to somebody, and it goes back to what I was talking about earlier, the the fantasy that we develop about somebody, and it can happen so easily with somebody online. And because we read this profile, we might have a couple of phone conversations. Oh my gosh, this person's wonderful, but we don't know until we can get in front of them, until we can have some time together. And you know, and you know, long distance relationships can work, and sometimes and a lot of times they don't, because you don't have that spontaneity. You don't have the, hey, come on, let's go see this show, or let's go grab dinner. And if you live a distance, a couple of hours away or more, it becomes, everything has to be choreographed or planned. So you need to take those things into consideration. Are you willing to have a lot of phone conversations before you get to know someone, or excuse me, before you get to meet someone? There's for lack of better terms, there's a lot of logistics involved with dating. So it's, to circle back to Paul's question. Yeah, it's, um, you can um, uh, work things out between somebody that lives in the city and somebody that lives rurally. I mean, it's not going to happen on the first phone call. It's not going to happen probably within the first couple of conversations. But that's if you're meeting people in the city and you're living rurally. That's something you got to ask: is, where do you see yourself living? I mean, in Paul's case, does she have kids or family close by, or is she an empty nester and the kids live all over the country, and she has to travel to see them? If you're a big traveler or enjoy traveling, that could be a lot of fun. And then you got to take your kids into consideration. Where do you live, and where are your kids in relationship to your location? uh, so all those things, the family dynamics, all that stuff needs to be taken into consideration. And that can make dating a little more difficult at our age, the midlife singles. But it doesn't mean it's insurmountable. It just means it's just, there's more stuff to deal with. When we were in high school and college, we were dealing, well, in high school, we're dealing with dating somebody that lives in the same town. They may even live just a few blocks from you. in college you start running into dating dating people from different areas, but you're in the same location for the school year, and then how do you see each other after that? Well, you got to travel one place or another, or you break up at the end of the school year, which a lot of us did. So it's but as we've aged, and hopefully gracefully, uh, we have to take these things into consideration. And we all have extended family. We've got our kids. We've got maybe grandkids, and I'm at an age now where my grandkids are almost at the age that they're getting ready to start thinking about moving out of the house. There's one is 15 and one is 17 this year. So it's like, oh, so to keep track of everybody, those are some things that you have to think about. You know, or do you have a close relationship with your kids? And you know, there are dynamics with exes that do you get to spend holidays with your kids and when the ex is around? Some of you have very good relationships with your exes, with your ex in-laws, and others don't. So there are so many things, so many dynamics that we have to pay attention to, and it can get frustrating, but it doesn't have to be. You just have to be cognizant of all of these things, all of these issues. What are the things that you all are looking for? you know we really haven't touched about online dating, and so I'm going to throw that question out there towards the end of this and say, how many of you are online dating, and are you finding it is it a viable option for you to meet people that way? And are you meeting any good people, or uh, are your results kind of I know personally, I it's and when one of my personal observations about online dating is that it seems to go in cycles. For me, and the cycle that I'm in right now is somebody will reach out to me and we'll have a couple of message conversations, and the next thing you know, they disappear or they don't respond. And after about 5 days, I'm out. If you're here and you're serious now, and I understand there can be a myriad of circumstances that cause you not to answer, but I think if you're serious about the platform, if you're serious about about finding your soulmate, that you have to put some effort into it, and that means you have to check your online dating profiles at least at least 2 or 3 times a week. Some of it, and that stuff can be addicting. You can end up scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, depending on which site you're on, or how much time you have. I don't recommend spending more than, if you're not having conversations with anybody at any given point, I don't suggest spending more than half an hour to 45 minutes at a time scrolling and looking. And the reason being is you can after a few days, it's just, you do this for a couple of hours a night, it can be, oh crap, there's just nobody here. You got to do it when you have a fresh mind, when you have a fresh mindset, and you can't do that. It's it's shopper's fatigue. And ladies, how many times have you gone out gone shopping, been out all day, and by 3:30, 4 o'clock, 4:30, you're looking at stuff, eh, 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 and pretty soon nothing looks good. Nothing is seems to fit right. That's shopper's fatigue. And that means it doesn't mean that the thing that you just looked at and said, doesn't mean it wouldn't look good on you. It just means that you're tired, you're wore out. It's time to go do something else. It's time to go have a margarita or something, whatever it is you want to do. But you have to be aware of this, and that's why I don't suggest spending more than half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour at the very max. And again, depending on the site you're on, some sites you'll be swiping left, 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 and pretty soon you're out of options until the next day, or maybe even a couple of days down the road. So again, it's based on the site and how many people are there and whatnot. It also depends on whether you're on a paying site or a non-paying site. If you're on a free site. Paul says, one of my favorite responses on a profile was the answer to, "What are your goals in life?" She replied, "To be done with online dating." Well, there you go. And I can't argue with that. I would love to be done with this too. But here we are. And excuse me, sinuses, the allergies are kicking up here. So it's and that Paul, I take that as a pretty good sense of humor. Although if I looked at that as and I was tired and cranky, I could take that as a smart ass remark and say, next. So and that's why that's another aspect of online dating. When you first start talking to people, they can't tell your sense of humor, and so you have to be so careful about some of the things that you share or how you say things. It can turn people off, and and the sad part is, if you respond to somebody, and even if you have a smiley face or a laughing emoji, Paul says, I loved it. I think she had a good sense of humor. There you go. See, you looked at it in a positive standpoint, and that should actually be all of the goal for all of us if we're online, that to get off of here and be done. Just like my coaching, I don't want you for clients forever and ever. I would love for you all to find your soulmate and move on. I would love for you guys to put me out of a job. Unfortunately, with our divorce rate, yeah, I think I'm pretty well set for life. So there's always another crop, or always another batch of newly singles, and even singles that are just getting back into the world of dating after raising kids, or coming out of a long-term relationship. There's so, but the point of all this is that we need to make good decisions. When you look at divorce rates for second and third marriages, they just go through the roof. The average rate of divorce for first time is a 40% divorce rate. 60% of first marriages last. Where that statistic starts to go crazy is in second marriages, where 63% of second marriages fail and 71% of third marriages fail. Well, why is that? And one of the other statistics, and ladies, this isn't looking good for you all, in that pretty standard across the board. women are leaving marriages or initiating a divorce 70% of the time. And so there's a lot of concern about that. And when you take into account men's experiences, ladies, a lot, you ask a lot of times where the good men have gone. A lot of them have gotten gun shy over the years, that they don't want to do this again. I know I don't. It's devastating for, and it doesn't always work out well for ladies either. I don't want to say that, but it's generally more devastating for men, especially financially. And I was just looking at a study out of Denmark yesterday or the day before, and one of the reasons that men tend to want to be in a relationship is they have a longer longevity, uh, being being married. And I have to relate this back to a comment that somebody made about men marrying younger women. And in this study they addressed that men marrying younger women increases their men's longevity. And it's the exact opposite for women. When an older woman marries a younger man, both their longevities go down. So it's and 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 I don't know. This was a study of, I think it was in the neighborhood of like 4,000 couples, and they didn't specify whether how long they had been married. They didn't specify uh, much more than they had been married. And there seems to be a sweet spot for women, that women live longer when they're with somebody that's close to their age within a year or two. But it's and for men, it's a little bit. I think it was about 3 to 5 years was the sweet spot. Um, but even with the, what do they call them, the May October or October May relationships, the men still live longer. If there's a 12 or 15 or so year difference, when you start getting out beyond that, then the I don't know that I want to say benefit, but the benefit of an age difference starts declining. So anyway, that's some weird stuff that I about relationships that I've uncovered here in the last couple of weeks. But anyway, so does anybody else have any other comments? Have you are you still able to find good people online? Um, and is that is and if you're not, is it the fault? Do you think it's the fault of the platform? Do you think it's the fault of, um, meaning the particular site that you're on? Do you think it's the overall online dating at all overall is the problem, or could it be the user's problem? And where I come in with that is, there are so many aspects of online dating. I mean, creating an online profile, creating a winning online profile, and I see so very few of those. I see some okay profiles, but in just in my casual scrolling, there are ladies. You have some really terrible profiles out there, and you need to put a little more effort into this. And before you start jumping on me, I know there are a lot of terrible guys profiles. For a while I was hearing, oh my gosh, tell guys to stop putting up their catch of the day or their kill of the day. But ladies, I see it regularly on your profiles, on women's profiles also. I see women holding up their big catch of the day, or they're out on their hunt, and with their deer or their turkey or whatever it is they're hunting. So it goes both ways. But rather than getting upset about the guy having a bass on his profile, just recognize that as a sign. Number one, if he's an outdoorsman, he's probably, and that bothers you, he's probably not the guy for you. Number one. Number two, he's just showing you what he likes to do. It's like me posting a picture of me on the ski hill, or posting a picture of me on the sailboat. So it's and that's part of creating your online profile. So be cautious about how critical you are of some of the pictures. Now, the shirtless pictures, the bathroom pictures, and ladies, you've got a lot of bathroom pictures. There's a whole system and a whole process. And if any of you'd like, I have I have a PDF. If you just reach out to me, I'd be more than happy to share the PDF with you. Just email me or message me here on Facebook or LinkedIn or YouTube, because this is being streamed live all there too. If you'd like a guide on creating a winning profile, just reach out to me, and it's called The Art of Storytelling: How to Create Your Winning Online Profile. And it's free. There's no strings attached, and it's pretty comprehensive, and it gives you a lot of good do's and don'ts. Then the other thing, if you want to get a little more in depth, if you want to get more serious, I have an online course. It's called Dating Made Simple Academy, and it's available at my website, and that's www.ricksodabeer.com, and that is available for $247, and it goes through just everything from becoming emotionally healthy to becoming crystal clear about what you want in your next relationship, to communication, to all the way up to becoming date ready. You'd be surprised how many people aren't date ready. And so there's about 3.5 hours of videos in there, and some I just updated. I just updated a couple of things in the course, and one of them is actually using the PDF I just shared with you. You'll actually get that in the course. And then of course there's always, and if you want, there's a payment option there. If 247 is out of your range, as a single payment, you can make 3 payments, but that's all in that. Just go to my website and you can read through it, and you can see what a couple of people have said about the course. And then then of course, if you want to go in even deeper, we can do one-on-one coaching, and that's available also. And you can check that out on my website also. And again, that's www.ricksodabeer.com, just like it's spelled down at the bottom of the page there. And if you have any questions about that stuff, just let me know. If you have any other questions about online dating, or comments about online dating, or dating in general, pop them in the chat box here real quick, and I'd be more than happy to answer your questions. Again, I love answering questions. Number one, because I want to see you all be successful at dating and in your next relationship. I don't want to hear horror stories. I hate hearing horror stories of being stuck in toxic relationships or bad relationships. And I've got a daughter of a very dear friend of mine that's dealing with an alcoholic husband, and it's just not pretty, because when you get into a situation like that, it's just there's a lot of hurt and a lot of pain caused, that, and more than enough to go around. And so it's about making decisions that are in your best interest. And a lot of times we get caught up in, well, if I get her to do this, if she just would change this, everything would be fine. But and I learned a long time ago, we can't change anybody. The only one we can change is ourselves. And if we've got problems in the relationship, one of two things has to happen. Either I or you have to change, or your partner does. And the only one that you can control is yourself. And you know, how much of you do you want to give? And I'm thinking more along the lines of toxic, hurtful, hateful relationships. How much of yourself do you want to lose in those types of relationships? And that's the whole point of what I teach, is to try to keep you out of those things from the start. Try to recognize uh, how to position yourself so that you recognize these things early on, and that you're able to make decisions long before you get too many emotions wrapped up. And that's one of the tools that I use, that I share in my book, I share in my course, and in my one-on-one coaching, is creating your must-have and deal breaker lists. Those two things alone are transformational in dating. They'll keep you focused on the things that you do want in a relationship, and they'll help keep you out of the relationships that you don't want to be in. They'll protect you from the negative stuff that you want to avoid. And you can generally do that, if you're following your lists, your must have and your deal breaker list closely. You can generally do that within 30 days or less. A lot of times it'll just be a one and done date, and you just figure out, kind of like Paul mentioned, the phone call he had. It was a one and done phone call. And if you're local to somebody, it can be a one and done date. And I've had more than my share of one and done dates. But when you're clear, when you know what you want in your next relationship, and you have it written down, and you can refer to it regularly, after a hot date, or just a great beginning, you say, is this somebody I really want to pursue further, or no? And rather than waste time, I so many times we get into relationships just because we want to be with someone. If you want to be successful at dating, you have to be able to move past that. You have to be able to say, no, this isn't the one for me, and I'm not going to waste my time, and I'm not going to waste their time by trying to make something when I know it's not the right relationship for me. So anyway, I'm stepping off my soapbox now. Yeah, anyway. Okay, since nobody's chimed in and popped anything else in the comments, thank you all for showing up, and Paul and Liz, thanks for your comments. I'm so glad you are here. Thanks, Paul. I enjoy our conversations or our chats every time. And I will see you all. No, I may not see you next Monday. Monday, I think, is going to be a travel day for me. I'm going to take a quick rundown, I think, to Kansas City next weekend, and do a couple of things down there business wise. And hey, Suzanne, thanks for joining in. Glad to see you were here. And I always enjoy your company here. And then I'll be traveling Monday, so I will miss next Monday. If that trip doesn't happen, I will be here, but I'll let you know in plenty of time. So anyway, have a great week, everyone. Have a wonderful next weekend, and I love you guys, and I'll see you in about 2 weeks.